You're tuned in to Positively Terrible. I'm producer Dan, and each week my buddy Scott and I discuss surviving and thriving after trauma. It's a journey that started when Scott, his wife's fiance, and her boyfriend walked into a bar. This week's decent human being is Bill, and he's got a fucked up story about cancer. Settle in, my terrible listeners. Today's episode is going to be positively terrible.
I was nervous and stressed because I thought you were the best. I was right.
Hey, Scott.
Hey, Dan, how are you?
Man, I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
You know, I'm doing all right. It's been an all right week. I don't know if I told you, but Baloney, my dog, had some more, I'm not going to say scares, but had some more issues. But once again, he's a trooper. We go in, take him, get him all tested. He's got a cough now, but apparently that's being an old dog. It's not anything that's bad for him or that. And he's part pug. He's a puggle, half pug, half beagle. So,
right.
You know, he's got kind of the pug breathing issues and things like that. So he's doing well. I'm doing well. I'm still craving some of those pierogies you and I had this weekend.
Man, we had some real good pierogies this weekend. We went to I don't even know what European country that coffee shop was from, but it was wonderful. Homemade pierogies, and man, I'm ready to go back already.
Yeah, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that it was Polish because Portage Park is highly Polish. Bill, have you had pierogies before?
I have no idea what you're talking about, but they sound they sound delicious, and maybe I should import them from wherever you get them from.
Well, they're basically, what are they? Steamed dumplings?
Yeah,
they're
steamed dumplings.
They're
stuffed with all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. And this place has been in my neighborhood, like 5 blocks from my house, for 18 months, and I am filled with regret I have not had 18 months worth of pierogies because I had no idea this place was there. And I think Dan and I will be back.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I just had to put it out there on the air, being recorded. So you know, I'd get a yes, and now I'm going to hold you to it.
Yeah. So have you ever had Portuguese tarts?
Yes. Oh, what are those called?
Portuguese tarts.
Yeah. Yes, I have. And I had them in Chinatown.
Oh, wow.
Because did you know that Portuguese is one of the most spoken languages in the world?
Whoa.
And the reason is Portugal, although small, had such a wide or had such a big shipping industry. And the Portuguese language is spoken like all over Africa and in Brazil, of course, and like several other countries. And there's a lot of connection with China from all of the trade that Portugal did. And that's how I ended up having Portuguese tarts in Chinatown. And it was awesome.
I don't even know what a Portuguese tart is. And I will say that I just fact checked you, Dan. And yes, it's the 5th most spoken language in the world, which is pretty impressive for I guess we'll call them a small but mighty country.
Indeed.
Mighty indeed.
Yeah, but Bill, thanks for coming on the show today. Can you tell the listeners just in a sentence or two kind of why you're here and what you're going to talk about today?
Okay. So in August of 2022, I was diagnosed with throat cancer, and I'm 74. I've never spent a night in hospital except maybe when I was born, but I don't remember that. I've always been healthy. I've always been fit. So what happened was I was at a men's gathering. I go there twice a year, and I was doing a couple of workshops there. And on the Friday night, I just felt a lump here on the side of my throat. And it hadn't been there before. And it was a little bit hard. So I thought, okay, it's probably lymph nodes swollen, all kinds of bugs around. I'll just check it over the next 2 weeks. If it's still there, then I'll go see my doctor. 2 weeks later, it's still there. Go see my doctor. He said, okay, go have a scan. So then, scan went to scan to another scan to another scan. till finally they went, yep, you have actually got the, the base of the throat was where the cancer was, and this was like an outlying station, if you like. And I'm really glad it was, because this is easier to feel, to find. The one on the base of my throat, if I hadn't discovered it when I did, then it could have been way worse. So then I went on a journey of, so what do I do here? And I'm used to alternative or natural healing. For the last 45 years, if I get a headache, I don't take an aspirin, I'll drink a glass of water, or I'll use an acupuncture point. So I'm not used to the medical model or the pharmaceutical model. So but I had some, really kind of serious decisions to make. And, ultimately it's my body, it's my decision. But my partner, Julie, and I made it together because it's our life together. So anyway, I was talking to my naturopath, and she actually works with an oncologist. And my GP, my doctor, a really lovely human being. I'm so glad I happened to bump into him. He suggested, well, here's your options. You can do this and this and this. And so we discovered that chemo and radiation for my treatment where I was would be a 7-week sprint. It would be intense. It would be tough. The radiation was 5 days a week for 7 weeks. And I had to have those. If I missed like 2 or 3, I'd have to go way back to the beginning. So I didn't want to miss that. And then they give you chemo to deal with the effects of the radiation and clean up all the mess that's left over. But the chemo itself, that was like once a week on a Wednesday. That was like 4 hours. Anyway, I mean, there are lots of things that happen, and cancer is so widespread, and there's all kinds of different cancers.
Can we
Yeah.
back up a little bit?
Yeah.
And I appreciate that, and I appreciate you diving right in and sharing. And I do want to get back to that. But I want to take a step back a little bit, because you said a couple of things that caught my attention. The first being that you never really went to hospitals. You never took drugs for headaches. Was this, and I think I heard, what was their naturopath? What?
Naturopath. Yeah. They deal
naturopath?
with. Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, some of the stuff that you're describing sounds like, alternative and newer, at least as far as some of the acceptance goes. How did you get involved with that type of lifestyle?
Oh gosh, that's going back a long, long time. Well, actually, what happened was in the late 70s. So I came from the world of computers, very left brain, very black, white, very logical, leave your emotions and your heart out of the business, just do the stuff. And then I had like an awakening that there's other things in the world besides the left brain stuff. And I did a workshop, which was really, it was mind-blowing. Literally, it blew my mind. And so I became much more aware of other things outside my small confines of my life. And one of them was using visualization, being aware of what's going on inside of my body, and meditating. And when I did that, it was like there was a whole new world that was all the way around me, but I'd never known that it even existed. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like, when you go from your comfort zone and everything is comfortable, and then something happens, your world falls apart, and you step outside of it, and then you go, wow, far out. How long has this stuff been going on? Well, it's been going on forever, but I just didn't notice it. So
yeah, and notice I say kind of new modern stuff, but I do understand a lot of the stuff that we are learning comes from a lot of natural things that people have known for a long time, but we haven't had like the science behind it.
Yeah, indeed. In fact, if you go back like 100, 120 years in America, mainstream medicine or allopathic and homeopathic medicine work together. There would be hospitals where both were together, and then politics and money and influence got in it, and then it split, and then one was elevated and the other one was pushed back. And this is
Politics, money, and influence. That's the American way.
Absolutely. Well, yeah. Well, you certainly do a good job on that, I've got to say.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
try and mess up the rest of the world.
We've exported plenty of that. So
You
yeah, and
certainly have.
when you discovered this and started incorporating it into your own life, were you using that in conjunction at all with traditional medical doctors, or mainly sticking with the natural stuff?
Well, I'm so over 45 years ago, really, when I started all doing this, I had lots of friends who were studying acupuncture, were studying naturopathy. And I actually taught at one of the acupuncture colleges in Brisbane. I didn't teach acupuncture. I actually taught learning systems and how to learn effectively. So I've been around people in this field for a long, long time. I have a big, huge network of acupuncturists, naturopaths, homeopaths, chiropractors, physiotherapists, energy healers, you name it. I've probably been there, but I know people in this field.
Okay.
So for me to go down the traditional medical field, for some of my friends, it was like, whoa, Bill, you're going to the dark side. You're going to them, big pharma and all the rest of it. And it's true, I was taking a step into an unknown, but I had to make a critical decision. And for me, and this is my perspective now, is I want the best of mainstream medical science, and I want the best of all the quote alternative or natural healing. I want the best of both, not making one better than the other, because they both do different things. And so, when I'm having my tests and having radiation, this machine is worth, I don't know, $500 million. That's a big machine that, it's like high-tech science. But here I am.
For sure, Bill. And that's part of the reason I wanted to back up a little bit and talk about kind of your long history, is because I wanted to then ask about the decision-making process. You just said kind of going over to the dark side. When you're going over the options that you had, kind of what were your feelings about that?
Well, mixed feelings. And just to give you a bit of background, I have two friends of mine that have died from throat cancer, and they didn't go down the medical model. They did other things. So this is in the back of my mind. And my naturopath, who we've been working with for like 15 years, she knows us really, really well. She was liaison with my oncologist, who became my oncologist. So she said, go hard, hit it hard, do it once, and then use all the other things that I know around naturopathy, natural healing, meditation to support what the chemical and medical model was doing. So for me, I'm a consumer, and I had to make a call, which way do I go now? So, and there are I have friends of mine. There's another friend of mine who had stage 4 prostate cancer, and he'd had a 7-year journey with this. And he actually wrote a book called Patting the Shark. He's actually a surfer, really well-known surfer, and won awards for his writing. And he was talking about complementary medicine. And this is really what I would advocate for, is that both, let me tell you a story. My radiation specialist, his name is Sid, which is short for Siddhartha. Now, if anyone knows the name Siddhartha, Prince Siddhartha became the Buddha. So he was a wealthy prince, saw the suffering in the world, and quote, became the Buddha. So I've got Buddha as my radiation specialist. Yay, what a team I got here. And he was saying, when he was working in Western Australia, so he's a medical model, like straight down. And he had a friend who was a naturopath. And they decided to gather their resource together and create a conference where both sides could sit down and learn from each other. So it's not the dark side. I'm kind of joking when I say that. But both sides reckon the other is the dark side and they have the light. From my perspective, both have got things to offer, and the wisest will listen to the other and find out what they can integrate. So when he and his naturopath friend were putting this together, it never actually got up. And I'm going, so which side canned it? Guess which side canned it, the idea. Make a guess. I was thinking it's mainstream medicine, the bastard. Well, no, it was the naturopaths. It was a naturopath said, we're not going to go dancing with them. They're the baddie. And for me, that's absolutely insane. That's absolutely crazy because both have got things to offer. And for me as a consumer, I'm going to suck the best out of both because it's my life and it's my body and it's ultimately my decision.
Yeah. Okay. And that's cool. And I very much appreciate it. And will say that there are a lot of things I don't understand when it comes to both traditional and alternative medicines. And, I'm pretty much, before we got on, I told Dan, producer Dan, I was like, Bill might be a little bit more of a hippie than us. I don't know if that's a word that you would use to describe yourself, but
absolutely. Well, in the 70s and 80s, sure.
And what I was going to say, though, is there's some of the stuff that are not necessarily options for me, partially because I don't understand or don't know about them, and partially because it's been ingrained in me that, okay, you go to the doctor, you get the medicine, you take the treatment. And I'll even say it goes so far as to a lot of people, and at times even myself, can roll your eyes at things we don't understand, right? And to hear you talk about the natural and the traditional medical kind of holding hands together sounds incredible. It sounds like why would you ignore one side or the other? And my fear sometimes when we have guests on is that we will have guests that might go a little too hard and say, oh, fuck mainstream medicine. And it's like, well, no, that's there for a reason. But and I was asking, I'm sorry, Dan, did you have a question that you were going to jump in with?
Well, yeah, I do. And here we are in retrospect a couple years later, and you're telling the story, and you got into traditional medicine, and you got homeopathic or hippie medicine all working together, and that's great. However, when you were there, when it was happening, when you were the kind of guy that wouldn't take an aspirin because you were doing acupuncture to work with your headache, did you feel like was that a difficult thing to do, to go see traditional doctors and did you feel you were abandoning your hippie life?
That's a really good question, and not abandoning, but pragmatic. There are things that I needed that mainstream medicine can do that the alternative fields don't even have any expertise in. Likewise, there are things that my naturopath knows about nutrition that most doctors will never learn because they don't study that enough in doctor school. So for me, this is my life, my body. So I can choose, do I want this bit or this bit? And as my naturopath said, the chemo and the radiation is just going to fuck with your body. And it does. If anyone here has had chemo and radiation, it is a nasty son of a bitch. The good thing is,
part of it is that they want to kill the cancer before they kill you, right?
Yes.
It's like,
yes. Who's going to get there first? It's like kill the cancer or they're going to knock you off first. So, I had to make a call. But I guess because my GP, my general practitioner, he was such a good listener and he understood both sides, which is kind of unusual for a medical doctor. So he was my first sounding board. And then when I talked to the ENT, do the nose throat, I said to him, what if I wait 6 months? He said, sure, Bill, you can do that. That's your decision. But in 6 months' time, we may not be dealing with the same issue. And I'm going, okay. So Julie, my partner, and I, we discussed all the different ramifications as far as we knew and came to the decision, let's go down the medical model. It's a 7-week intense journey. Actually, I want to say 7 weeks. The treatment is 7 weeks, but it's not just 7 weeks and you're done. There's months and months. Even now, you'll notice that I'm sipping a lot of water because my salivary glands still haven't come back. So when I eat, I have to make sure I have enough water in my mouth, otherwise I can't swallow. So all that, let's do this, go hard, and then use all the other things I know. So chemo has certain side effects. One of the things that they do is they give you steroids to deal with some of the effects of the chemo. Well, so I'd have chemo on a Wednesday. So Thursday, the steroids have kicked in and I'm buzzing full of energy on steroids. So I'm just going, wow, far out, this is good stuff. And then Friday afternoon, I'm going, and then by Saturday morning, I'm just flat. I'm just like laid out horizontal. And it's not till like Monday, Tuesday, I'm starting to get. So steroids take, they might give, but they certainly do take. So I had to do some things in changing medication, adjusting things, using the other things I know to help me manage. And that's really what my alternative or natural team were doing, was helping me to manage the side effects of the chemo. And I had a look at the side effects of chemo and radiation, like 5 pages worth. It can do this. My thyroid got dried. Mm-hmm. And when your thyroid gets dried, that affects all the other glands inside of your body. So now one of the side effects of that is I have to take thyroid tablets. So for the rest of my life. But, it's like in the big picture, I'm alive. I've got energy. I've always been a high energy person. But when I was going through my treatment and months afterwards, I had so little energy. And, when you've got no energy, it's just like someone just unplugged your phone, your cell phone, and your battery's going like 10%. It's like, I got to recharge it. So, but there are a lot of things. So I've had 45 years of experience and training in mindfulness and emotional intelligence. I've worked with elite athletes. I've worked with the national skydiving team. I've worked with cyclists, triathletes, golfers. So I know a lot about how to use my head, my mind, to help my body go through it. So there are a lot of things that, when you've been doing something for a long time and you kind of take it for granted and you figure, well, everyone knows that. Well, they don't. It's like common sense. Common sense is never common until someone tells you what it is.
Right.
So I had all this background. So when I was faced with this particular situation, I wasn't coming to it new. I was coming to it with 45 years of doing things and establishing routines and practices. So I didn't use my head brain to mess up my body. I didn't catastrophize all the horrible things that could happen, because if I did that, that would stress my adrenal glands, that would stress my kidneys, my nervous system. My body had enough shit to deal with without me putting a whole bunch of imaginary shit into my body.
Yeah.
So I've got that discipline and I know how to do that. So
well, I'm glad to hear that you had that foundation. And I did want to just interject and say that look, all of us know people who have had cancer to different degrees. And I would say the catastrophizing, am I saying that
that's
right?
right.
I'm saying that
right.
I think I got it.
Making shit movies in your head. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes.
So the people I know who have survived or even didn't necessarily beat it, but lived a long time seem to be ones who were able to have that good perspective during it. It seems like that's an extraordinarily important part of survival is being able to, the mind and body work together. And so, in kind of in unison. And I'll tell you, I've in the past 8 months, I'm finally coming over it, but had long COVID, and it destroyed kind of my mental health because my physical health felt like shit. Yeah. And I know that it does the opposite too. If it starts with bad mental health, your physical health can go to shit. And it's a really hard cycle to get out of. So props to you for having been working on that for your entire life or for a large portion of your life.
Well, all these things, when I was going through treatment, pardon me, the doctors, nurses, the medical staff, they'd say, "You're amazing, Bill." I'm going, "Yeah, of course, I know that. Right? We're all amazing." But tell me what that means. Like, when you say I'm amazing, what does that mean? Give me something tangible. And one specialist said in 17 years of clinical practice, she'd never seen anyone, given my circumstances, my age, health, blah, 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 she'd never seen anyone progress through the treatment as well as I had. And I said, okay, good. Now I understood. And when I was in the waiting room, I'd listen to conversations around me, and I could tell by some of the things I was overhearing and body language that for some people, this was the worst thing that's ever happened to them in their life. And you could see them literally spiraling downwards. My advantage, if you like, was simply because of my learnt experience and training, is for me, and this is one of my foundations, and this has been a foundation of mine for a long, long time, not just something I came up with last week. And this came from one of my mentors. I wish it was mine. I wish I could say, "Yay, this is my bit of wisdom," but it actually came from somebody else. But what he said was this: we're doing a program, and it went for a whole year. And in one session, he said, "Life is meaningless." And we're going, "What? What do you mean? Life is meaningless? Don't say that." And what he meant was this: is every single day there is event after event after event after event. You wake up, that's an event. You go to sleep, that's an event. You have lunch, breakfast, dinner, you talk with someone. Someone insults you, you insult somebody else. All those things are events, and in and of themselves, they mean nothing. They're neutral. But what happens is human beings are compelled, obsessively compelled, to make meanings out of all the events in our life. And he said this, he said, whatever meaning you make will become your reality. So when I got my diagnosis, I could make, the meaning I can make from that is, this is going to kill me, this is horrible, this is shit, I'm going to die, and do all the catastrophizing. That's one meaning I could make. But the meaning I chose, and this was deliberate and conscious, was this is going to be a gift. I had no idea how that was going to show up, but this is going to be a gift. So my mentor said, whatever the meaning that you make becomes your reality. Mm-hmm. And what he said next, really, like if your listeners hear nothing else but this next sentence or two, they have got so much value, I can't tell you how much value they've got. He said this, the meaning that you make becomes your reality. And he said, it doesn't matter if the meaning that you're making is true or not, because truth can always be debated. He said, the real question is the meaning that you're making useful or not? Yeah. And if you make it, and if it's not useful, then the sooner you change your meaning, the better off you are. The Buddha said, I think it was the Buddha, might have been somebody else, but I'll give it to the Buddha. He said something like, okay. Pain is inevitable. If you're alive, you'll experience pain. There's no way past that. I'm kind of ad-libbing a little bit. I think he was much more precise. And he said, but suffering is optional. In other words, I get a diagnosis. That's neutral. I can add a whole bunch of suffering to that and not just make it small. I can crank it up to all of my life and make all of my life a waste of time. And I chose not to do that.
That sounds like the Buddha.
Yeah.
I'm not going to quote check you on that, but it does sound like the Buddha. And I am connecting with so many of the things that you've said and have said similar things in my life. You talked about the events in a day. In an episode previously, I talked about moments, how there's millions of moments. Like, what is a moment even? And collectively, you might have 999,000 of those be good moments, but those, the very small amount can take up just an oversized size in your brain.
Yeah, absolutely.
And as far as like meaning, these moments there's been billions of years worth of moments, at least.
Indeed. Yeah.
You know, it's amazing that you have so much, and I mean, you specifically, Bill, but also you as a human, that our brain is so powerful and
Yeah.
perspective is powerful. And God damn it, am I a little more hippie than I thought, Dan?
Yeah, I think you are. Like, you know, you got the beard, you got the shirt. Dan, you got the beard too. Like, you know, I've got a little bit of a beard. You got better beards than me.
It's in here a little bit. It's in here a little bit.
Yeah. And I'll be honest, like a lot of that has only happened for me in recent years, that I recognize in myself a more acceptance of just a different way of thinking. And part of that was the way I tell my story with the collapse of my marriage is that my future died. And at that point, I needed something different. And that's also why producer Dan and I are here, is because we wanted to take that. Well, I wanted to take that. Dan just wanted to make a podcast, I think.
I just want to make a podcast.
Yeah. Doesn't matter what it's about.
But I wanted to take what had been destructive for me, and destructive. I was in a long marriage and didn't even recognize how toxic it was, and put out stories, and not just my stories, but other people, so that we can take things that maybe aren't so meaningful in the entirety of the world and galaxy and all of that shit, and making it meaningful to the people who can hear it.
Yeah. And for me, and I've been on several podcasts and listened to lots and lots of podcasts and spoken to a lot of people. And it seems to me that, there's an adversity of some kind of shit happens. But underneath it, there's a deeper truth, a more useful meaning, a gift, if you like. So when I decided that this was going to be a blessing, I didn't know how it was going to show up. But that's the direction I want to take, rather than this is a curse that's going to kill me. So the gifts, and there have been so many gifts. We don't have to log them all the gifts that have come from this thing, this cancer that I had, that it's hard to even express how many things. And, if you've got a couple of hours here, I can go through them all, but we probably don't have that time. So for me, it's like there are all these gifts that, in my understanding, every human being has. And the gifts, the more we share them, that's why this podcast is just like fabulous, because the more we share our gifts, the more other people can go, that's a bit like mine, and I can take that from what they're saying and use that, and it can help my life be a little bit easier. So I reckon that human beings as a species, we need adversity. We need adversity because it's only when the shit happens, we actually go looking for the gifts. Otherwise, we kind of cruise along in complacency, in mediocrity, and blah, 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 and you bore yourself to death. And so when the shit happens, you find out what's really inside of you, and that's where the gifts are. That's where the juice is of being a human being.
Yeah.
So true. So true.
I tell people all the time, like, for me to really relate to another human, they better have been through some shit. A lot of people who have had it too easy.
Yeah.
And I don't want to sit here and say, oh, spoiled kids or whatever, but there are people whose lives, that their traumatic events are being told no when they want a new car for their 16th birthday.
Oh, yes. I feel for them.
It's like, the adversity is, it's a cliche, but I've learned as I've gotten older that so many cliches are cliches because they're rooted in some serious truths.
Absolutely.
It's like it builds character. It makes you who you are. And if you don't go through some of that, if you don't have to overcome things, what do you become?
Yeah.
You're just kind of the same person.
Yeah. And when a chicken lays an egg, and it's a fertilized egg, the chick has to fight its way out of the egg, out of the shell. And it's called pipping. The process is pipping. It pecks until it breaks. And that action of pecking, of pipping, I think it's called, actually creates certain things, I think enzymes, whatever, inside the chicken's body, and it can grow from there. If you crack the egg open for it, it doesn't do that and it will not thrive. So we are designed to actually have challenges and overcome them. A lot of people ask me, so what do you want when I'm talking to clients? I want to be happy. Ugh. I don't want to be happy. I want to have something that challenges me, that helps me use my head brain, that helps me connect to my heart, that helps me connect to my guts, the ability to do things. I want challenges because that's what helps me stay alive and keep engaged in the world rather than get so, I'm 74, I should probably retire and just play in my veggie garden. But I can only do that for so long. Then I'm going, hey, I've got other stuff to do. I want something meaty to do in my life. And I figure it doesn't matter how old you are, that's always there. Otherwise, it's just a slow slide into the sea, and you may well get someone to just push you in the wheelchair so you get it over with faster. Is that a bit too tough?
No, man, that just has me working through my own life now. I got a lot of things I got to get done now.
And I mean, what I'm hearing is, and I'm going to say, Bill, I do want to be happy, but I think what I'm hearing, what I'm hearing though is you're looking for and getting a level of fulfillment.
Yes.
Versus just the happiness.
Yes.
And that's, as Dan just said, working through some things. Like I've been working through some of this for the past 6 months, year, where I've left my corporate job to figure out another path. And you throw your fist up, but there's also in the back of my head, I'm just,
of course,
and I may end up back in the corporate, who knows? But my original plan when I quit was to go back to school and go into therapy and become a therapist. And, pretty much every time I start to get scared about this plan, I talk to someone who, like you right now, are inspiring and making me think, God damn it, I can't just give up on this. So thank you, first of all.
Can I offer a little perspective that you may like or you may not like, but I'll put it in there because you're quite open to honesty. So one of the models I work with is a combination of ancient wisdom, like been around for 10,000 years, and modern neuroscience, like the best of both these cultures, if you like. So every culture on the planet since forever has recognized three major intelligences, one in our head, one in our heart, and one in our belly. And when I first was learning this, my physiotherapist said to me, when someone is standing correctly with posture, their heart is slightly ahead of their head. So we are biologically and structurally designed to live from our heart first. And within our heart is our core values, the things that deeply matter to us, not the stuff on the surface, but the stuff underneath. When people follow their heart, their head brain, which is the ideas, the organization, needs to come up with the ideas that serve the heart. And the gut brain is about action. It's about courage. It's about moving out of your comfort zone and doing things in service of your heart. So when I've worked with people that have made the shift like you have from the corporate world and have done a lot of work-life balance work with clients, and they step into the unknown, they're going, what am I going to do? I'm scared. What about this? What about that? And all these things. And if they're truly following what's in their heart, then their head brain and their gut brain is designed to serve the heart. When people operate from their head first and they disconnect from their heart, then just look at the corporate world, politics for starters, where AI, the rise of AI is very head brain. And what I'm concerned about is where's the compassion, where's the humanity? So what happens is the gut brain, by the way, is a part of us in traditional Chinese medicine. That's a good analogy. The heart is the emperor or the empress. It's the boss. The head is the governor or the organizer, and the gut brain is the general. It's the one that has boundaries. It's the one that's got an incredible army. It's our immune system. So it's a part of us when someone breaks one of our boundaries, the general will get really pissed off. But it's also the prompter, the intuitive prompter that goes, go this way. So when someone says, they think about, leaving corporate and finding what the heart really wants, man, I'm just pumping my fist going, yeah, you go do it. It's going to scare the shit. It's going to scare the shit out of you. You're going to be wondering about, what about my security? As if your security is really outside of you. It ain't.
Right.
It's always on the inside. And your gut brain will going, yeah, we can do this, but what if, and your head brain can do all this job on you. Don't do that. Hold in, be conservative. But your heart's going, man, this is what I really, truly want to do. And in my experience, in my own life and working with hundreds, thousands of people over the years, when people discount what their heart wants, they will never, ever be happy. Ever. I've worked with weight management stuff before. And when
Is this the hint? Is this a hint to Dan and me?
No.
Are you trying to sell us some kind of service right now?
I could just see from the head up, so I don't know what your body does. But
we do that on purpose.
So when I was working with weight management, the gut brain, so when we connect to our heart, we find out what our true path is. When we disconnect from our heart and our head brain gets into it and we lose that, then this is when people can become depressed because all they see is life is pointless and meaningless. So what happens is when people have a void in their heart because they're not connected to their heart, then their gut brain goes, wow, there's a gap here. I better fill it in. And they fill it in with the 1,000,001 ways that we can do addictions. And it's like, an addiction is really, and there can be lots of different reasons for this, and we don't really have time to go there, but really addiction is your gut brain trying to fill in the gap in your heart. And so people numb themselves out with drugs, alcohol, gambling, sex, porn, all the ways that we can do it, hoping that it will fill in the gap. But the thing is this, all the addictions are always substitutes. When I used to smoke cigarettes, my mentor said to me before I'd light a cigarette, he said, before you light it, ask yourself, what is it that you're really needing and wanting right now? And so I did this for about a month. And one of the things I came up with, the cigarette helped me calm down, or the cigarette helped me get energized, or the cigarette made me feel like I was doing something. I wasn't just a loser in a party with nothing to do. This gave me stuff. So it had a reason. He said, when you find what the trigger is and what it really is wanting you to do, and you do that, then you don't need the substitute, because the substitute will never, ever, ever, ever be enough. Your gut brain, you cannot overconsume your way to a full heart. You just cannot. You need to feed the heart. So when you say you're thinking of following down the path, you're going, man, follow your heart. That's what you're designed. Whatever it is, sure, your head brain's going to have some stories, but these two, your head and your gut, got to be in service of your heart. I think I've probably said enough on that.
Well, I appreciate it, Bill, and I'm going to say a couple of things. The first of which is we probably have listeners that are like, what the hell is he talking about? And I'm not saying that is an insulting way to you. This is just a unique perspective. And I will tell you that there's definitely been times in my life where I probably would have rolled my eyes at some of that. And, I don't know. I can't sit here and say, okay, yeah, head, heart, gut. But as I'm sitting here thinking about it, when that anxiety kicks in, where am I feeling it? I'm getting feelings in my gut. And it's this terrible feeling. And I know I've read so much in recent years about the gut biome and probiotics and all of this stuff that there's something there, man. I don't know what it is, Bill, but you are sure as hell on the right path to some extent, at least.
Yeah. Go explore that. Like the gut brain stuff in the last 5-10 years, there's so much science that's come out. Like I have a good diet. I've had a good diet for decades, but a lot of people actually eat shit food. And so what happens is if you eat shit food, I used to work in computers, and there's a saying, garbage in, garbage out. So if I put garbage in my body, my nervous system, my immune system, all these systems have no chance of doing anything good. And So when people change what they put in their body, and you mentioned probiotics, we've been eating probiotics for 20 years. Those probiotics help my gut brain, and if my gut brain is healthy, that helps my heart, and that helps me think differently. You know, years ago, we used to work with kids at risk, and we'd have them for 5 days a week, then they go home on the weekend. So during the week, they would eat really good, healthy food. And by, they'd come in on Monday, really rat bags. By Friday, they were half decent human beings. They'd go home on the weekend, eat all kinds of shit food, Coke, chips, you name it, fast food. Come back on Monday as these little horrors. By Wednesday, they're getting better. Friday, and it was down to diet. And one of the kids one weekend, he couldn't go home for some reason, and he stayed with us. So Monday morning, when the other kids come in, he goes, "Wow, am I like that?" His eyes wide open because he's seeing this alien get off the bus, and he used to be one of those aliens. So, go explore it. Like, don't take my word for it. Go explore it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, and I really do mean it too. When I say I appreciate it, this is, my mind is being opened up to a lot of things, and I've been putting a lot of thought into like what makes human, and like the brain is the main place where we live, right? I think.
No,
but
it's your body.
Well, I guess that's the thing. It's like there's so much shit that I don't understand, let alone the science. It still is figuring out. I mean, even what is consciousness? We could spend some time on that. We're not.
Let's.
We're not going to. We're probably a little too short on time for that. And actually, on that note, Bill, can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing today, where people can find you?
Yeah. Okay. So I was going to write a book about my experiences moving through and going through cancer. And I've written like 5 nonfiction books before. And the good thing about a book is you can read it. The bad thing is you can read it and put it down. And you maybe heard the phrase overread and underdone. And I didn't want the gems. I don't know if you had the expression squeezing the lemon in the States. But squeezing the lemon is like getting the most out of every single drop out of the experience. So all these bits of juice that I found, I wanted to give people, drip feed the information and the concepts. Because some things I talk about are a little bit different from maybe most people's reality. And to dump it all in one go, it's just like mind blown. I'm leaving the building because it's too much. And I didn't want that to happen. So I wanted to, my first thing was I wanted to heal through this cancer, but I want to thrive from it. And part of my thriving is passing on the stuff that I've learned through this whole process. So my website is thrivingaftercancer.info. And it's a membership site where people, every 4 weeks, there's a bunch of information, but it's not a big dump, it's curated. So if I told people all the stuff I know, it'd just be too much. I've been around for too long. And I'm not being boastful, it's just like 45 years of stuff that I've done. So I've curated what's actually relevant for this quadrant, this group of people, and then layering bits of information over a period of time. So, and that's part of my thriving. Part of my thriving is taking what I've learned and experienced and sharing it with other people. Simply because the difference between pain and suffering. People going through cancer have enough pain and they have a lot of, in my view, unnecessary suffering because they simply haven't learnt the stuff, which is common sense to me. I just happen to have gotten there first. That's all. It doesn't make me special or anything else like that. I just happen to learn this stuff before they did. And my mission now, my thriving, is to help other people lessen the suffering that they may be doing to themselves. And that's really that's what gives me a buzz. That's what energizes me. That's what makes my heart sing. And and I want my heart to sing for purely selfish reasons because I love that feeling. So that's where I'm at.
Awesome. Awesome. So thrivingaftercancer.info is what you said?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay,
Thriving
cool.
After
We
Cancer,
will, and when we release the episode, we will put it in the show notes and share it and do all of that good stuff. And you said you've written books before too. Are those available for like purchase?
I can give you links for that.
Okay.
Really, this is one of my favorites. This is called How to Be Bulletproof from Criticism. And
Ooh, I like that.
for people that are listening to this, I'll give you a link so they can pick this up for nothing, for free.
Okay.
It's
Nice.
one of my favorite books because of all the wisdom that I've collected from other people, showing my stories. And just you may want to remind me to do that. So, but I'll set that up. So
Okay.
yeah, there you go. Well, people can find me on LinkedIn. Just look for my name. There's only one person there with the name Bill Lee-Emery, and that's probably the best place. There's Facebook, but those two things is really the best way.
Cool. And I know I probably should have just stopped after the last one because we're going to put all of this in show notes and on our Facebook and everywhere anyway. So we will make sure that if people want access to you and the work you've done, that they have access to that. Everything will be shared. And Bill, thank you so much. I mean it when I say like 10 years ago, I wouldn't have been open to a lot of this conversation. And an hour ago, I was probably even less open to some of it. But this has been great. Thank you so much for coming on.
It's my pleasure. And if you ever want to take another layer, then call me back and we can do a little bit more.
Okay, cool. Well,
we will. I love that.
Thank you so much, Bill. And
my pleasure.
This has been great. As I like to say, you've passed the decent fucking human test. And
sure.
Dan and I are just so grateful that you're willing to come on and humbled and we can't really thank you enough. It's just been great. And terrible listeners, remember that you can find us on our social medias at Positively Terrible on Facebook and Instagram. You can also find our website, positivelyterrible.com. You can send us an email if you want to be on the show, or if you finally want to get the decent fucking human tattoo.
Don't do it.
You can send us an email at podcast@positivelyterrible.com. And as always, this has been absolutely, positively terrible.
I met you back at Tonic Fest. I confess I was nervous and stressed because I thought you were the best. I was right. And that night we got into a water gun fight that I won. I shot you in the face. It was fate. I offered you a spring. You declined. I said, keep it. You might decide to change your mind. You did. Yeah, you did. Now I'm glad I got you in my life.
Positively Terrible is a part of the Terrible Podcast Network.